Free agency is quickly approaching, and with that will come new teams for some big-name players. And of course, when mentioning big-name players, the quarterback position is often intertwined with this, and that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. We're going to be discussing quarterbacks that will be going to new teams this offseason, and how much they will impact a new team when they get there, what they can do statistically, and what new city they will play in. Now, before we get started, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as each only take a second to do, and it would be very much appreciated. Now let's begin. So with quarterbacks on the move being the subject of today's video, I do want to quickly address Russell Wilson. Russell is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and there's really no denying that, as he is consistently near the top of the league statistically, always has the Seahawks in the playoffs with a lone exception in 2017, and is by every definition a franchise quarterback. Of course, there have been rumors with him wanting out and listing only a few select cities of where he would play and everything like this. We've all heard it. But what I'm going to say now is Russell isn't going anywhere. The Seahawks would be incredibly dumb to trade the best quarterback to ever play for their franchise and have to all of a sudden find a new quarterback and a new franchise signal caller. Yes, Russell may be unhappy, and I do credit him for going public with it and voicing his opinion, rather than just be quietly unhappy with no one but the Seahawks players and organization knowing that. But he is not being moved. Period. Of course, if I'm wrong and there is a blockbuster trade, which, by the way, if Russell is traded, it would be probably at least 3 or 4 first-round picks, I will make a big post acknowledging and admitting I was wrong, but the Seahawks are not far away from a Super Bowl, and they have no reason to blow up the entire franchise and mess up what's been working for a decade. Russell's team in 2021 will be the Seahawks, period, end of story. Next is Dak Prescott, and this is a little different of a situation, but not drastically different from Russ in Seattle. He is an unrestricted free agent, where Russ obviously is not, but Dallas, like Seattle, will not allow him to go, and Dallas especially would not let Dak walk without being compensated for themselves. So in theory, if Dak wanted a trade, Dallas would at least sign him to a franchise tag, which would be a 1-year deal, and then they would compensate it accordingly. Now, if Dak hypothetically wanted out and wanted absolutely nothing to do with the Cowboys, he would, like we said, sign a long-term deal or a franchise tag, and he'd get his agent to include a no-trade clause, which means, for those that don't know, Dak would have to approve of the team he would then be traded to. But Dak has never expressed hatred or displeasure to the point of no return for Dallas, and again, like with Russ, his team will be who he's played for his entire career in 2021. Okay, so having to address those two guys, we really get into the meat of the quarterback free agency class, and it is a better one than most. Alex Smith was released by the football team recently, and we're going to discuss him and his team in 2021. So obviously, this is a tremendous story in the comeback alone, as most of us saw the E60, but this is strictly business. And to be completely honest, no disrespect to Alex, but he's more than likely going to be a backup this year, as thinking out loud for a second, where would he start and where could he start? Houston, assuming Deshaun doesn't play, of course, is a possibility, but other than that, options are extremely slim. Jacksonville, of course, has their quarterback. The Jets will roll with either Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold, and at this point, I would assume Wilson. And we're obviously not going to go to all through 32 teams, but the point is, a place for him to start is slim pickings. Maybe New Orleans or New England, but again, I think New Orleans rolls with either Taysom or Jameis before Alex Smith. Anyways, the point is, he will not be in Washington next year, and having said that, where he goes is one big mystery. Will Alex go ring chasing and take a fraction of what he's worth to try and back up and get a ring? Will he go somewhere and try and compete for a starting job? Or, given he had a decent level of play last year, try and get himself into the role of Josh McCown had with the Eagles, where he's basically on call every week? As I said, I don't expect him to start next year, but there is an old saying that says you're only as good as your backup quarterback, and due to that, Smith will low-key be a coveted free agent. He will 100% be on a roster next year, of course, if he doesn't retire, and there is no doubt about it. Now, the only question, of course, is the role he plays and who he signs with. Next is Jameis Winston, who's had an interesting career path. He, like Alex Smith, is a former #1 overall pick, but after having a 5,000-yard year in 2019 and finishing second in the NFL in touchdown passes, he signed a cheap deal to be a backup this past year. And yes, I am fully aware of the turnovers he had in 2019 before anyone mentions that. But Jameis is an interesting case now that he is a free agent. He had eye surgery, which of course makes you wonder, how much will that affect his play? Could he just not see? Will he be able to read defenses better now? Or is just something fans will discuss to fill up a conversation? Not only that, but he also had the privilege to be in the same quarterback room with Drew Brees for a year, who is one of the best of all time, and there is no doubt Jameis learned a lot from him. We just have not had the chance to see it on the field yet. But Jameis has always been a turnover-prone player, and that's just his style. Can Sean Payton coach him to be a quarterback who, if in the right situation, can throw for, we'll say, 25 to 30 touchdowns with 7 to 10 interceptions per year? Is that possible with Jameis, or is that completely unreasonable? And Jameis, like Alex Smith, is in an interesting situation because there's not exactly going to be countless NFL teams lining up to sign Jameis and pay him to be their franchise quarterback. But there would be nearly every NFL team lining up to sign him as their backup, and due to this, Jameis will be a coveted free agent in his own rights, but how much he gets is certainly another question that needs to be answered. With him having spent a season in New Orleans and a year getting comfortable with everything, I do expect Jameis to take a bit of a discount to stay there and be the starter for them this upcoming year. Him, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas would be a solid offense, and there's no reason to think Jameis couldn't succeed after a year under one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Lastly, that doesn't mean Jameis comes out as prime Drew Brees on steroids, but what that means is there's no reason to think he couldn't have a productive year and get the Saints to a wildcard spot, assuming the Bucs again will be the Bucs. So next is Cam Newton. Cam is obviously a different player than most, as he is a former MVP and has a larger-than-life personality. But where will he play, and who would want Cam as their starter for the upcoming season? He finished his 2020 year with just 8 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions in what can best be described as just a weird season for Cam. Now, I try to be fair to everyone, and to be fair to him, he wasn't working with much in New England, and not only that, he had an additional 12 touchdowns on the ground, and there were certainly times he kept the Patriots in the game single-handedly. But moving forward, I don't think that means much in terms of who would be willing to pay him a lot of money and to give him the keys to their franchise. And someone asked the question, where will Cam play in 2021 recently on the second channel? By the way, subscribe, Football Discussion. And I answered this with, honestly, I don't know if Cam is going to be on a team at the start of the 2021 year. I truly don't think Cam will go somewhere to be someone's backup, and I don't think a team will give him the chance to start. And if he is given the chance to start anywhere, like with Alex Smith and Jameis, it's going to be slim in terms of his choices. I highly doubt Cam or anyone else for that matter truly is thinking, you know what, I want to go play for the Texans and I want to turn that franchise around from nothing. So he may be given the opportunity to play there, but Cam, and obviously I don't speak for him, but I wouldn't blame him if he declined to play in Houston in the upcoming year. As of now, I don't see a definitive place where he could go, and due in large part to his accomplishments in the NFL, he wouldn't want to go be a backup, and I think he would sit out of the NFL for a season, if not the rest of his career, before being a backup. So unless a starter gets hurt before the start of the season, and I'm referencing this to give an example and obviously not wishing this on anyone, but if someone suffered a Teddy Bridgewater injury where a team had no other option just 2 weeks before the start of the year, then my honest prediction for Cam is he does not play in 2021. The only other path I see him signing somewhere is if someone who's on the fence in their career path, like Drew Lock for example, absolutely stinks it up to the point where they bench Lock, and then the Broncos would proceed to reach out to Cam. But those are way down the road, and as of now, what ifs, and because of that, I don't think Cam Newton signs with the team prior to the start of next season. And the last player we go to for today's video is Deshaun Watson, currently of the Texans. This is a situation that certainly isn't common, where a franchise quarterback has stated countless times he wants out and will not play for his current team again due to irreparable damage. So obviously my prediction at this point in time is pretty clear. He won't be in Houston at the start of next season. And what will he be traded for, and what is he currently worth trade-wise? This has to be brought up because we saw Matt Stafford get traded for 2 first-round picks plus Jared Goff, and while Stafford is a good player, he is not viewed the same way Deshaun is around the NFL, and his trade value is much lower, largely due to his age and, well, his level of play. Deshaun's trade value is among the highest in the NFL, but given he wants out in the worst way, I'm honestly not sure what the Texans will receive for him, because please also know, Deshaun has a no-trade clause in his contract, so if they would in theory agree to a trade with whatever the team Deshaun wants to go to the least, he could say no and this trade would not happen. So in reality, this is a 3-team trade in a sense. The Texans have to get what they want, the other team gets Deshaun, and then of course, Deshaun and his team has to agree to go to the new franchise. So where will he go? Of course the Panthers will do everything they can to try and bring him to Carolina, but also please know this. They, as in Matt Rule and GM Kevin Fitterer, signed long-term deals, as Rule specifically was a 7-year, $60 million deal. So unless the Panthers get trounced by double digits every game this year and go winless, which won't happen, they're not in trouble of losing their jobs if they don't get Deshaun Watson. They're going to have their jobs next year. Someone else around the league, though, is on thin ice as a general manager, and that's Bears GM Ryan Pace. Pace is on a year-by-year basis, and Chicago has made the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years, but this year wasn't even close, and they got beat by the Saints pretty good. But with Mitch not being a franchise signal caller, and a guy who won't be around for 10 plus years, this is the team that could and would send the most for Watson in a trade. What that is, Who knows right now? But the Bears will outbid anyone when it comes to acquiring Watson's services, simply because there is no tomorrow for the men making these decisions. They have to win now, and they would do anything to have him be in Chicago at the start of the 2021 season. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps immensely, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. Until next time, be safe. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace.